So knowing what you're going to be doing, having your day planned, and then just executing. Execute, right? Because after all the prayer and everything is done, you still have to take action, right? So when I've done those things consistently, oh man, like it's just hitting. And then as you get wiser and you start to get new information, then you can add that into the process too, right? Because we're always growing, we're always learning. But you need to do the best you can with what you know right now.
The top 3 responses that I get when I ask, why do you want to leave corporate America, are that you want financial freedom, you want to own your own time, and you want to build a legacy for this generation and generations to come. Now, this is not a solo job. In order to transition from your 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship, it's going to take community and it's going to take resources. And I've created the community of pioneers who are going to wrap around you and help you make that transition successfully. So if you're interested in leaving your job, go ahead and click that information below. Let's get into the community and let's transition from your 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship successfully. Now let's get back to the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Work and Play podcast. I'm your host, R.O.I, and I have the really, really great guest here, Mr. Dawud Hamzah.
Hamzah.
Yep. Dawud. Is the
Dawud.
W really? Dawud.
There you
Hamzah.
go. Yeah.
Yesterday, when you did when you started your speech with like explaining like how it's actually spelled, I was like, I'm glad you did it. It was real classy.
Thank you.
Because when people misspell your name or mispronounce it, you kind of like stuck like, okay, now.
Yeah.
But you did it real classy.
I appreciate that.
I liked it.
You can tell I'm used to hearing it the wrong way, so I'm like, let's get this out of the way at the beginning.
I loved it. I loved it. So without further ado, would you like to introduce yourself to the folks?
Yeah, so again, my name is Dawud Hamzah. A little bit about myself. Currently, I am a youth motivational speaker. I'm also a licensed life insurance broker, and I also do real estate investing. I'm a father of 2 beautiful young children. My son is 6, my daughter is 4, and I've also been married for 5 years to my wife, Sadea. And I'm on this entrepreneurship journey, really getting heavy into the speaking arena now, taking that serious. So that's how we met, at a speakers conference. So I'm excited about what the next 12 months really are going to look like, really honing in on my craft and my skill set.
Absolutely. It's so much to get into, but you're right. We did meet at the speakers conference, but we are part of the same community of entrepreneurs who meet 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. But because we're all on Zoom, everybody doesn't get a chance to interface. So it was kind of like fam as soon as I think.
Fam at first sight, right?
Fam at first sight. So, without further ado, got you. So into your story, I'm trying to figure out where should we even start, because on the Work and Play podcast, I truly believe that if you play while you work, you never have to work a day in your life.
That's facts.
As of right now, the entrepreneurship journey has provided me with that opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
But for you, the transition, the career, the life journey, it might look a little bit different. So
it was a roller coaster.
Let's start with what did you do when you had your 9-to-5?
So I spent most of my career in the retail arena. So I started in retail when I was 16, and I got my first job working at Target. My mom got me hired off the strength of her work ethic and her word. So they brought me in. I didn't have to interview anything. The guy sat me down and said, your mom's a phenomenal worker. We're going to hire you. And that meant a lot to me. I value my mom being the type of person that she was so reputable that they just said, go right ahead. Yeah. So she also made them a promise that I would work and be better than her. So I had to uphold this, expectation at this point, and she knew I had a strong work ethic all the way from when I was a young boy. But I did. I went in and I went in. So by 18, I got my first promotion. By 20, I got promoted again. 22, I was promoted again. 24, I was promoted again. And by the time I was 24, I was making more than my mom and my dad combined. And I stayed on that retail journey. I had a little bit of ups and downs, but most of the time I was in that same pay grade, around $53,000 a year. And then I got into a very good position working as a district manager for a retail drugstore. And that really put me in a different element. I was making a 6-figure income that allowed me the freedom to really not have to worry about my wife after work. I was able to take care of everything, with the income I was making, and also dabble in some entrepreneurship investments. Nice. So it gave me some flexibility and some freedom with the income I was earning. But I knew it wasn't gonna last me forever.
Yeah. You knew the 9 to 5 wasn't gonna last.
I knew it was. I had been looking into entrepreneurship, and I learned about personal development at about 21. I actually got licensed as a life insurance agent at 21.
Okay.
And someone gave me a disc from a guy named Art Williams, and that was one of the first personal development CDs I ever heard.
Oh.
Yeah, and by the time I was 24, I got introduced into multilevel marketing, and I heard about Jim Rohn, and it just blew my mind. Really understanding, like, number one, I always loved to speak, and when I started hearing some of these motivational speakers, I was like, that's it right there. Like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I knew, if not anything else, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to control my time more. I wanted to be able to be my own boss. And I also wanted to not have a cap on my income. I didn't want somebody to tell me what my value was at a job and say, this is as much as you can earn here. Yeah. I wanted to be able to control that in my life.
That's lit. I love your air about you. And what I mean is, well, the first thing that I thought was, one, you were like accelerated into management at such a young age. Yeah. So I feel like that gave you this like maturity that a lot of people who are 24 just don't have.
Yeah, with no degree, by the way.
No degree, exactly.
No degree. Yeah.
And the other thing that resonates with your story, so I worked at my first job in corporate was actually Target.
Wow.
But I went straight to Minneapolis.
That's awesome.
And I always say, like, I admire the corporate, like my corporate colleagues who started from like store, store
level.
Yeah, team member, then went to ETL and then STL, then distribution, and they made that because you guys have such more knowledge about like retail. So when you think about like your early business experience, like what was your biggest takeaway as a businessman that you got from like that retail experience?
Really leadership, and I think that leadership translates into any arena that you're ever going to operate in. I had the opportunity to really learn unconsciously about leadership growing up. My grandfather was a minister. That taught me a lot about how he moved and operated as a leader. We had a family restaurant I grew up in. So I saw business, and I saw how my grandfather and my father conducted business, and having that early exposure, but then going into Target and really having an opportunity for that leadership to be molded a little bit more, be enhanced a little bit more. I went through Target's Leadership College.
I didn't know they had a leadership college.
So when you get promoted to an executive team leader, you actually go through an 8-week program, which is a specific leadership training for Target. So that gave me an opportunity to really take my leadership understanding and my knowledge and my skill set to a whole nother level. And that helped me in so many different facets of life. Like, from what I do right now in business, how I interact with teams, how I delegate, all of those things I learned from the principles and things like that at Target. Yeah.
Wow. So taking this maturity and then this sense of like urgency to like live up to your parents' standard in their name, then on into sales, right? So because I would imagine that leadership is one thing, but then I know so many people who don't translate that leadership skill into like actual sales. Yeah. So what was that journey like? So
I was doing a lot of entrepreneurship roles as I was still working my job. So I went into, like I said, I was a licensed life insurance agent early on. Kind of got burnt a little bit in that arena. I didn't really know any better.
What does getting burnt look like?
So when I first got into life insurance, they didn't explain to me what a chargeback was.
Okay.
Right. So a chargeback is basically when you issue a policy to a client. If that client cancels that policy before it matures, which is a 12-month period, you would have to pay back any money or difference of the money that the client has not paid, because in life insurance, they advance you funds, right? They advance you your pay as an agent. So you write a policy and you would get they would take that premium for 1 month, multiply it times 9, and pretty much pay you that in advance. So if they cancel, and you're like, well, hey, we ain't even get 8 months out of this yet. You got to get the money back. And I had no idea. Like I guess you can call him my upline or whatnot. He didn't explain that to me. So I wrote my first policy. I'm young, I'm 21. I'm excited entrepreneurship, but I learned about residual income at this point. I never heard the term before. So I heard about residual income, and I wrote this policy for this family, and I didn't know that, the husband at the time, he was dealing with some diabetes, and he got a medical exam and he got denied. So he said, well, hey, if I can't get covered, I just want to cancel the policy for my whole family. Mind you, I made about $550 for a one-time sit-down appointment. Like, that was mind-blowing. Like, it was like an hour of sitting down with somebody, wrote a policy, made $500. I'm 21.
Right.
Mind-blowing, right? And then my upline calls me and says, hey, you need to pay that money back. Like, they canceled the policy. I'm like, oh, that money gone. Spent that money already. Yeah. And since you didn't tell me this, I'm gone too. Yeah. Like, you didn't explain that to me, so I don't want to do this anymore. So that was a very fast process of my introduction to entrepreneurship. And then a few years later, I got introduced to multi-level marketing. Yeah. And I actually had some success. Actually, one of the companies that I was in at the time helped me and my wife get closer. We've been friends for many, many years. She was actually my first ever girlfriend when I was 10.
Aww.
Yeah. So I've known my wife for 23 years.
Okay.
And I ended up getting into this company, and I recruited her.
Really?
I recruited her as one of my reps at the time, and I helped her earn $1,000, working in that multi-level marketing. And that helped her move. She was in the process of moving, so it got her some money in her pocket to move. But in that arena, I made a decent amount of money. I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to engage. I knew how to speak. I would speak in front. I had no problem with speaking in front of a crowd. So multi-level marketing is really about selling people a dream. You know what I'm saying? Selling them a dream and getting them to buy into that dream and getting them to understand that they fit in it. Like, you fit in this dream. Like, it's not just for me because I'm winning. Like, you can win too.
Okay.
And it went good for a while, and then you start getting people that fall off, and it was a process. And eventually I started moving from one company to another, and I didn't really understand the multi-level marketing arena too well. But if one big leader left and you were in their umbrella, you kind of wanted to be with that same leader.
Okay.
So I followed a few leaders as they tried or went to different companies, and it kind of just burnt me out after a while. It was like, now it's a new company, a new product, a new presentation to learn, a new spiel. I'm calling people over and over again that maybe I burnt them because they were in this company. Now I'm saying come to this company, and they're spending money and maybe they didn't make money. So eventually I was like, it's just not for me anymore. And my wife was at that point, I did it for years. And me and my wife now, we were dating there, but eventually she was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, you got to let that go. So,
well, let me ask you, the biggest part about multi-level marketing is to sell people the dream, and then to get them to understand how they fit into the dream, and then allow them to, sell other people on the dream.
Yeah.
And I actually try to go to bat for multi-level. I've never been in multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
But of course, people in my circle would say it's a scam, right?
Right.
And I'm like, well, I feel like there are pros and cons to it. But when you explain it from a dream perspective, and then you tell me you get burnt, what's the value in multi-level marketing in your own words?
Personal development.
Okay.
I will tell somebody to go join a multi-level marketing company just for personal development. I had never been exposed to personal development on the level that I was exposed to it in multi-level marketing. And another piece I would add is environment. Like, if you've been in any level of multi-level marketing or a big event, if you will, you've seen some people who are really winning. Right? You see some people that are making 10, 15, 20, 30, 40,000, $100,000 a month. And a lot of us have never experienced that. We've never experienced that, and experience changes your perspective on what's possible for you.
I love it.
So because of those experiences and me seeing, we go into stadiums and half of the stadium is packed out with people in this multi-level marketing business, and it's red carpet, or it's a Bentley sitting down on the floor of the stage, and talking to people who are really doing very well in it, and seeing their cars and everything, and you're like, wow, this is possible. Right? So I think just that those two pieces was everything for me. I would not take back one moment of my time in multi-level marketing.
Okay.
I had so much great exposure and so many great connections and resources I made. My mentor to this day I met in multi-level marketing.
Dope. So one other thing, so I can understand the process, because like I tell you, when I say I literally do try to support the movement, the reason is because I work with young people experiencing homelessness, and I kind of feel like MLM is like low barrier. Like if you can get the funds, the initial funds to get in, then you can literally be in an environment that will help you get to where you need to go. And all you need to do is use your own like will and own ability. So when I hear you say personal development and environment, definitely understand. And then I hear you say there are successful people in it.
Yeah.
Is it based on the skill set of being able to sell you on a dream or to sell the product?
So it's a mixture, right? Because you think about, usually the product is really not the big deal, right? The product is there, right? It's like a speaker coming in, and he also has a book. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So the product is there, it's great, but what's the real value? The value is the person. Okay. Right? The value is the people, your circle, your market, if you will, right? Because most multi-level marketing companies really are built upon and stabilized by people buying into the vision and the dream, right? So, like for example, I was in a company that sold coffee. I wasn't a huge fan of the coffee, to be honest. It was okay, but I just wasn't a real big coffee fan. But most of the customers was also reps. So it wasn't a big customer base outside of the people who are already signed up in the business. Okay. Most of the volume for the sales came from people buying their own packages. Got it. And sampling their own product. Yeah. And hosting events. Yeah. And have their product at the event. So the product isn't what, in my opinion, isn't what really makes the business like phenomenal. It's the people. It's the people. And if you want to learn how to network great and build great relationships, and even some foundational pieces about business and leadership. Yeah. Multi-level marketing is an incredible way to start, because usually it's a low overhead, low starting cost, and it's a business package ready to go. Right. So I recommend people give it a shot to get the skill set, especially if you're at a young age. I love it. And because we're here talking about we kind of connect on the speakers conference, I feel like there is room to give other young people who, I'm still in the lane of are experiencing homelessness, and even young people in high schools, just another way of earning money, right? Another way of reaching their full potential. And based on what you're saying, if whatever the product is, whatever multi-level marketing company it is, you'll probably find people who they're creating community around the product, but the product is not really what it is. Exactly. It's just a whole bunch of people who like coffee, but they are selling each other on a bigger vision. So you had a lot of practice selling people on visions. Oh man. Thank you so much for watching the Work and Play podcast. This episode is sponsored by the Boss Up Conference, which is a community for entrepreneurs, CEOs, celebrities, and corporate executives to come together, network, and solve some problems. Thank y'all so much for being supporters of the Work and Play podcast, and thank you for watching the Work and Play podcast and all the episodes before. Now let's get back to the episode. I was in it for years. I never had great success either, just being honest. I did okay. I made some money, but I probably spent more than I made, big events, going to the weekly trainings, hosting events at my home, but I did it all. I did all of it. And it was an awesome experience overall. That's dope. So let me get your story together, right? So 18, you started working at Target. 16, you started working at Target. Got it. That is why my numbers. Okay. 16, started working at Target off the strength of your mom. 4 years in, you went all the way up to. So within 6 years. 6 years. No. Because you were 24. I'm sorry, 8 years. So by the age of 24, so from 16 to 24, right, I got to an executive team leader role. And during that time, 21 is when you started MLM. No, 21 is when I got licensed life insurance. Insurance. Yep. And then I want to say 24 is MLM. 24 was MLM. So there's you see I'm putting these timelines together. So there's ETL. You leave the executive team leader position. At 24 I did. Yep. Got it. What made you leave? I was in a multi-level marketing company, and I was like, this is it. I was like, this is it. I don't need to work a job. Like at that point, I was so sold on the vision.
Got it.
And the dream. And let me backtrack. I want to say I might even started multi-level marketing around 22.
Okay.
Because when I left Target, that's when I was selling coffee. And at this point, I had been in probably 3 or 4 companies. So at that point, I'm like, this is it. Like, I don't need to work a job for anybody anymore. I had a little bit of money saved up. I'm like, I can do this on my own. And I learned the hard way that I wasn't prepared yet. You know, I wasn't mature enough and disciplined enough to really take on that journey yet to be my own boss. So ended up, you know, as I was still doing multi-level marketing, ended up going back and getting a job again. Had to rework my way back up the chain because I was in a pretty good position without a degree.
Got it.
Now mind you, so I'm going back into another arena, and now they're like, well, you don't have a degree, so you got to start here.
Got it.
You know, so I kind of had to work my way back up, but I knew I had to work ethic because, you know, once you've been in a certain environment, it's hard to go into a different environment and not at least get back to where you left.
Yeah.
Right? So I finally got back to that space, and then I excelled past that space. So by the age of 30 is when I hit district level position with a pharmacy store. And that's when I hit my first 6 figures in retail.
Wow. And that's just your salary, your six-figure salary. Was any of it commission?
Yeah, part of it was commission.
Really?
So not commission, bonus.
Okay.
Yeah, so part of it was bonus. So if we did, you know, hit certain metrics throughout the year, we would bonus as well. So with bonuses and salary combined, it was over 6 figures. Yeah.
You know, there's this thing with corporate Americans who, like, why would I want to work, you know, and get, like, work for my money, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I know you said you hadn't really gotten, like, huge success in MLM.
Yeah.
But what was your mindset as it related to money? Like, were you like, did you have a mindset towards salary versus commission jobs? Or were you like, I'm kind of comfortable, but I do want to go for the vision? What was the caveat?
I think because at such an early age, I got exposed to salary and I got comfortable with salary.
Yeah.
That's just what I was used to.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily have a preference. It's just like, hey, this is what's always taking care of home. You know, so because again, at 24, I was salary. So by the time I was 36 years later, it was just like, okay, I'm used to this and it feels good, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And I wasn't mentally prepared just yet to make the shift to say, you know what, I'm still more valuable than this. I'm like, this is it. This is the pinnacle of my income. I've never seen this much money per year. You know, and it, like I said, it really put us in a good position to navigate through life between my wife and my 2 kids.
Right.
We was able to navigate without a lot of pressure at that point. And, you know, it just felt comfortable. But I knew from all the personal development, from going to all the seminars, from being in multi-level marketing, from having some exposure with business, I knew that there was a different level.
Yeah.
And that it was going to take a sacrifice, and it was going to take me getting uncomfortable to reach that.
Yeah. So at this time, what was your vision? Because, like, you had been selling people the vision of MLM.
Yeah.
You also have this strong foundation in family. What was your vision at the time? Did you have one?
At this point, I really just wanted to, I realized the position I had was not for me, right? So I got into this district level position. I did it for about a year, and my wife would see how stressed out. I mean, like, once you get into that level type of position in most corporate arenas, they own you. You know, they're paying you 6 figures. They want every drop. You know, so I felt like they own me, and it was so stressful every single morning. I got this work phone, and I'm getting calls at 6 o'clock in the morning, pharmacist calls off, and I'm scrambling, like waking up out of my sleep, scrambling to find somebody to open the doors for a store. And it was overwhelming. Like I had never really felt anxiety before. Like I'm a very calm, cool, collected type of guy. And this was one of the first times I really started feeling anxiety and like feeling like overwhelmed and like a little bit of depression. And me and my wife talked multiple times about it, and I was like, I gotta get out of this, you know. So I started building my way out. You know, I had good credit at the time. I had some money put aside, and I was like, you know what? We had came across a good friend of ours who had owned a truck, and he was like, I got a dump truck, man. You guys should get into the dump truck business. And I was like, let's do it. Like, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Like, I need an exit. So I immediately started looking for trucks. Started an LLC, like did all the paperwork, like everything I needed to do. Got my MC number, like everything to get the truck going. Found the dump truck that was used, got a loan, and I also had my truck financed through the bank I was with at the time.
Okay.
So at this point, a little bit of debt, but I'm like, it's healthy debt. You know, I'll be able to work through it. I'm hearing how much my guy is making in the truck, and he's like bringing in $3,000, $3,500 a week. I'm like, cool, I can do that.
Yeah.
Found a driver. I'm like, it's go time. And got my truck on the road August 1st of 2019. I'll never forget.
Okay.
And got on the road. First day, did well. The next day, we was having issues with the truck. The next day, literally.
Yay.
Sent it to the shop, and I spent about $3,000 to get it fixed.
Yeah.
And it barely fixed anything. It's just I didn't know any better. And the truck just kept bleeding. You know, I would get on the road for a few days, I'll get on the road for a week, and it would make decent money while it's on the road, and then it would break down.
Yeah.
And I'd never forget, this was the toughest entrepreneur experience I ever had in my life. One time my truck was on the road and some gravel spilt out from we was carrying like a couple tons of gravel, and it spilt out gravel for about a quarter of a mile. And it was like kind of big rocks. And cars were hitting the rocks, blowing tires, cracked a few windshields. And I get a phone call, and my driver's pulled over by the police. And I also got another phone call from the site that he was going to deliver the gravel. And he was like, you're about to make us shut down our whole operation. The police is here. They got the city's on the phone. Like, you got to get this figured out. And me and a couple buddies, literally, I rented a flatbed, and we swept
the whole
quarter of a
street.
mile.
Oh my gosh.
In a 6-lane main street.
Oh my gosh.
We swept.
How long did that take you?
About 4 hours.
Yikes.
My hands was blistered. I never forget this experience. And I'm like, is this what entrepreneurship really? Did I really want to let my job go for this?
Yeah.
And at this point, I kind of checked out from my job.
Yeah.
Like I was missing days. I'm sacrificing. I'm just like, this is what I'm doing. So I strategically got fired. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. I know I have to leave, so I'm gonna get fired.
Tell me about this strategy.
Yeah. So
because like, I mean, this is a real. It's a headache because I want to know what happens to the truck.
Yeah.
But I also want to hear about this strategy of getting fired.
So again, August is when I got my truck.
Yeah.
My last day at my job was September 23rd of the same year. So about a month and a half after I got my truck, I was terminated. But I had already been planning this. Like, I had a whole plan. Like, I'm going to leave here strategically.
Yes.
I knew I would be able to apply for unemployment. That would give me a little bit of backing. But I'm like, you know, I'm not just about to quit. Like, I talked to a couple mentors, and they was like, don't quit. Like, let them fire you. It's like, cool, do what I got to do. Okay. So went that route. Then it fired me in September. At this point, my truck is up and down, up and down. I still got the truck, but it's up and down. And I don't know what to do. Like, I was relieved. Like, the day I got fired, I'm like, thank you. Like, the stress.
This thing is working.
Like, the stress, like, literally, like, when I handed them the phone and the laptop and the keys to the car, I had a company car, everything. I handed them the keys, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, it's just like, it was such a breath of fresh air from letting that go. And I'm like, okay, I gotta focus on the truck now, figure this out. But I'm like, it's up and down. I don't know if this is gonna sustain me. And literally the same day I got fired, I got a phone call from a nonprofit organization that I had volunteered for. And that's how I was speaking in schools, mind you. So this whole time, from about the age of 25 until 30, 31, I've been speaking too. On the side, voluntarily. Like, I'm speaking in juvenile centers. It's just what I love to do. I'm speaking in schools. And this nonprofit asked me to come back and volunteer for them again. And they said they need a director. They was like, hey, you know anybody that can fit this position? I'm like, well, I just got fired. So I'm free today. Like, it was this, I drove across the street and they called me, like, from being fired. And it was awesome. Everything, it kind of worked out in my favor at that time. I got plugged in as a director for a nonprofit, learned a ton about, more intricate pieces about working in schools, getting contracts with schools, grant funding, but I was getting paid through a grant. And they were promising me a salary that was like, if the grant goes through.
Right.
And eventually I was like,
and
hey,
you can't count on those.
I got a family. I can't depend on if. I need this has to happen.
Right.
So I got paid a few times. Money was funny, and I was like, you know what? I can do this on my own. I can make this happen on my own. So I took the skills I learned from that. I was like, I'm going to apply this to my own business.
How long were you at the nonprofit?
I was at the nonprofit for about maybe 6 months.
Okay. And what kind of nonprofit is it? So like, was it?
It's a youth empowerment. Yeah, it's a youth empowerment nonprofit. So they literally focus on, they went in schools, and I was a director over there in school programs. They had these curriculums they would take in schools, and they would hit on different topics. So every week we would have a topic we would go over. It could be money management, it could be conflict resolution, it could be dealing with trauma, it could be bullying. So it was different topics we would go in and talk to the schools on, and we focused primarily on 6th to 8th grade students.
Okay, so at this time, you were in your trucking business reluctantly.
Yeah.
You went to be a director at a youth empowerment nonprofit for about 6 months.
Yep.
And you're still doing MLM.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, no, at this point I'm not doing MLM.
You're not doing MLM. Yeah. Okay.
I dropped MLM. By the time I got to a district level position, I was like, I just can't. It was too much that was required of me in my role, and my wife was burnt out. So at that point, it was like, okay, I need to focus.
Not making the wife happy. We got to get on, and it wasn't making you as happy.
Nah, it was too much. It was overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. So when you go into those schools. So that means it's not too far-fetched for me to like think about motivational speaking in a nonprofit, in a homeless shelter, to get them into like. I feel like that's not, because at first,
Yeah. Yeah.
I talk about that with I'm extremely passionate about helping corporate professionals transition into entrepreneurship. So I had to share the number one thing that helped me develop as an entrepreneur, and that's the morning meetup. I joined the morning meetup specifically for the structure because I'm leaving corporate America, so I'm used to those morning huddles. We got our sales, we know what our goals are, and we get our day started. So I was missing that for 2 years before I even found the morning meetup. Now the second thing that I really benefited from was the revenue generating activities was not necessarily a thing before 2021. Now I had my LLC, I had my website, I had a few clients here and there, but the momentum really took off as soon as I got around like-minded individuals and people who really knew the struggles that I was already dealing with, that I could get over my fear of sales and communicating my value and putting myself out there on social media. The friends that I've developed, the mentors and the mentees that I've created relationships with, everything has really created this environment for us to thrive as entrepreneurs. So if you want to develop as an entrepreneur, you're leaving corporate America and you're trying to figure out how do I get my footing in entrepreneurship, then the morning meetup will definitely be a game changer for you. You can learn with us, you can grow with us. And I didn't even mention that we have a book club. Join us in the community. Let's get started today. You will not regret it. I talk about that with my colleagues a lot, so we're gonna have to talk a little bit offline because you already essentially do that. So what was your favorite topic to like do when you were like speaking at like with the young people in high school, right?
Middle school primarily.
Middle school, okay.
Yeah. So actually one of my favorite speeches that we did, our topic was trauma and how to deal with trauma. And I'll never forget, I walked into a school, it was a packed out cafeteria, and we were talking to a group of kids, probably about 200 kids or so there, and we were talking about dealing with trauma and what it looks like and what it feels like and how part of what they're going through is also going to be part of their story and how it can impact the lives of others. But really getting back to like self-love and feeling worthy. And I'll never forget a young lady, she got up and walked out really fast. And I was kind of going deep on some things that some kids were probably dealing with at home. We were talking about you might have been molested before. You may have had to deal with abuse. You may have not have your father or your mother in your life. And you can tell it struck her, right? And I was talking about the power of the mirror technique and how you can speak life into yourself and look into your own eyes and tell yourself that you are worthy and that you are loved and that you love you. Right? Because sometimes we begin to hate ourselves because of stuff that someone else put us through. Right? And she got up and stormed out, and one of the principals or teachers came out and grabbed me. It's like, you might want to go talk to her. And I talked to her, I embraced her. She was just bawling, and she was just like, what you were saying was hitting home too hard for me. I couldn't take it. But she was like, I'm so grateful that you did speak on those things, because I needed to hear it. I needed to still feel like I'm valuable. And so that hit me. Like, that was like, okay, this is needed. Like, it's needed.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it was just like, I think I stepped my game up from that time of speaking.
Because that's serious. Like, your words having the power to unlock someone's, like, literally emotional block.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes.
And I think with these kids out here not being in touch with their emotions, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can literally set some kids free who don't necessarily feel comfortable with speaking about their emotions, who don't feel like they're understood.
Yeah.
Like, who don't feel like anyone even like resonates, or they're only dealing with it by themselves. That can really unlock some young people.
Yeah, because they feel like, I mean, at the end of the day, they feel like people don't care, right? Or they're not seen. So as soon as someone comes in and really edifies that they do care, and that they are seen, and that child is important, like, that means the world to them, because they might have been lacking that their whole, like, can you imagine that their whole life they felt that way?
Right.
And somebody comes in and they're like, oh my God, like, he knows what I'm going through, and he sees me.
Yeah.
You know?
So, as a speaker, what gives you the license? And I'm like playing devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
What gives you the license to talk about, like, trauma? Like, is it life experience, or and if it is life experience, like, can you take me back to, like, something that you resonate with when you're speaking to young people? Yeah,
absolutely. So to answer the initial question, life experiences, you know, I love how Jeremy Anderson says, like, they give you degrees to be able to teach in certain areas, right? You might have a doctor's degree in trauma, you know, because you experienced it, you know. So not saying that I've experienced it to that level, but if my experience and my message can change somebody's life who may even be dealing with it on a deeper level, or I can be that person because they feel like their voice isn't heard, right? That's enough. And I think too many people are like shy. They shy away from speaking or sharing their story because they question themselves on whether or not they're qualified, right? Am I qualified to deliver this message? Do I have the certifications and the degrees and all the necessary requirements to go speak on this? And I would tell people, if you have experienced some of it, or even if someone close to you have experienced some of it, you're qualified. Even if you can tell a story from somebody who's experienced it, you're qualified, right? I've sent Oprah's, you know, story to many young ladies, right? It doesn't have to be my message. Hey, look, you need to watch this video. Sometimes they just need a resource, right? If I can connect them to the right resource, that's enough sometimes. But as far as my own personal background and traumas, you know, I love my mom and dad to life, and, you know, I always speak highly of both of them. But there was a lot of turmoil when I was a kid. You know, my mom and dad, they went at it for many, many years, and I think they really stuck things out because of us. And then, you know, actually only a few years ago they got divorced, but over 24 years, 25 years of being married, as all of us were growing up and they were trying to basically make it work. But, you know, seeing the verbal, you know, abuse and back and forth and the yelling and the arguments, and, you know, feeling like sometimes it got so heated, like literally I would step in between them, and I'm like, well, nothing's gonna happen if I'm standing right here. Like, I mean, literally. Like, I would see them get so close and be so angry, and I would see fists balled up, and I would insert myself in between. It was mostly from my mom, like, Dad, you're not about to do that. And I would step in between them. And, you know, it was scary sometime. And, you know, sometimes a little bit of pushing and shoving, never any major, you know, type of things that happen. But just that level of arguing, like high level, like faces, like crying, my mom would be bawling. And I would just talk to my mom, like, Mom, just walk away. Like, I would turn around sometime, be like, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Just love on her. And I was just, you know, it was unfortunate, but we had to live through that. We had to experience some of that. And again, I love my father to life now, you know what I'm saying? And I just feel like they might have not been a perfect fit, but they were perfect for us at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not perfect. I was birthed out of something that was imperfect, if that makes sense. And I think kids need to understand that, like, even if you're dealing with a very traumatic situation and you were birthed out of something imperfect, that's okay. You know, you're still the best version of you. You still can be the best version of you, even if you was born out of imperfection.
That makes sense. As a child, did you grow up with a certain schema about like who you were as the leader of the family as a child, or you clearly thought or knew that you would protect your mom as a kid, even though dad is this big, and you never got like hurt in the crossfire, but like what complex did you take from that? What was your role, or what role did you decide I'm going to live after like living as a kid and growing up?
Well, I'm a mama's boy, as you can probably tell. So I'm a mama's boy, and you know, it's so funny. Me speaking the other day, she saw it and commented. It was like, you know, this brought me to tears. And you know, so for me, I've always had like this innate, you know, belief that I have to protect and take care of my mom. And, you know, I did have to step up to the plate, you know, when I was around 18. My dad had a stroke and I had to step in and like really hold things down for my mom and my siblings. And I think even my siblings would probably say that I just naturally kind of took on a big brother role, even to some of my older siblings, you know, and that just was, I can't explain it. You know I took a strong liking to my grandfather. Like I said, he was a minister, and he really brought a lot of like, it was just the energy he brought when he stepped in the room. Like everyone respected it. Everyone was like, he's amazing, you know. And I would remember shaking his hand when I was 4, and I could feel, like I would shake his hand, I could feel the energy. Like it was something, like it felt divine, literally. And I just aspired to be like that one day, you know. And I think it was just something that just happened inside of me unconsciously at a very, very early age that made me want to be great and stand out as a leader and really develop myself along my journey.
Well, you certainly have that presence. I mean, like just sitting here and having you talk, I feel like you have this like vibrant, like high vibration, meaning personality / voice / presence. So when I think about like your story, I know like everything up until this point has just kind of made you the man that you are. I know you've picked up some identities from the past, and as father, as son, and as brother, and all of those different roles take on shape. It influences your message. But when you think about like your message, like what you actually want to be your message in this moment, even if it changes in the future, like what is that one thing that kind of resonates in all of your speeches, no matter what you're talking about?
So actually something that really started to resonate more with me now than ever before, and I really think it's at the core of what I am and will deliver going forward, and it's really being able to tap into the best version of yourself and being comfortable with giving that person permission to step forward. Right? So as I've been really working on my personal development, I spent some time, I got off social media for about 4 months, and it was really for me to really get a better understanding of who I was. And I realized that social media was pulling away some time that I didn't really have to give right now. You know, like, okay, I need to do some self-love, some self-care, some self-healing. And I took that time, and I gave myself permission to have that time away from the social media world. And during that journey, I spent a lot of time meditating. I mean, a lot. I would wake up literally every morning around 5 o'clock, and I would pray and I would meditate for about 10 to 20 minutes. And then when I went to bed that night, I would turn on it was a specific meditation sound that I would listen to really get in tune with my frequency as I was going to sleep. And I would try to hold a thought in my mind as I was going to sleep, as I was listening to this meditation sound. But to kind of put that in perspective, one of the main things that happened during one of my meditations is I visualized literally me walking up to myself, right? And I looked at myself and I'm like, he looks awesome. Like he clean, he lost a little bit of weight, he looking a little buff. Like it was just an image. And I'm just like, he looked like he had so much confidence and self-belief, and I walked up to him and I shook his hand, And I knew it was me, but it seemed like he was on a whole different caliber. And I was like, wow, I was amazed by seeing this version of me. And I'll never forget in this meditation, in this visualization, I shook his hand and I said, you're not gonna get that much farther away from me ever again. Like from now on, we're gonna be side by side. Right? Yeah. So that experience did something to me.
Yeah.
It really helped me understand, like, you know, number one, we have something in us that we underestimate, you know, and that we have the ability to tap into that and also give ourselves permission to let that be the person that leads, right? Because a lot of times we're leading from a place of trauma and bad habits and, you know, lack of discipline and things of that nature, when we know it's somebody inside of us that has all that stuff in order, that operates on a level that we could only imagine. But if you can imagine it, is it not in there?
Right.
Right? So if we say I can only imagine, well, imagine it. Like,
yeah.
And then don't just imagine it, go inside of the imagination and pull it out. And I've learned to start tapping into that. I won't say that I'm all the way there yet. It's deeper, it's a higher level. And even when you get there, there's a higher level, right? But I've gotten closer and closer to that best version of myself. And I'm really starting to force him out. I'm starting to let him take lead.
Let's go there then.
Yeah.
What, like, give it a name. What is that thing? What is that thing or things that you need to, like, you know, work through, at least revisit in order to, like, kind of get to your next level as far as you can see? Yeah.
So really, it starts off, for me, it starts off with, number one, getting in tune with me. When I start my day, right, being very intentional and in tune with myself, right? So that's where the prayer and meditation comes in, right? Do that first, and then for me, and what I've found out that makes my day go great, like high frequency, very effective day, pray, meditate, workout. Right? So now my body, my frequency is on a much higher level, right? Also going into the day with a plan. So plan your day at least the night before.
Yeah.
Right? So having my day planned. So I heard Jim Rohn said, don't start your day until you finish it. Right? So finish it first on paper. Then when you start your day, it's already finished. You got it right here listed out. Right? So starting your day once it's already finished, and then operating with a high level of expectation to get your day, like have an effective day, right? And get those things done. So knowing what you're going to be doing, having your day planned, and then just executing. Execute, right? Because after all the prayer and everything is done, you still have to take action, right? So when I've done those things consistently, oh man, like it's just hitting. And then as you get wiser and you start to get new information, you can add that into the process too, right? Because we're always growing, we're always learning. But you need to do the best you can with what you know right now, right? If you're not doing the best you can with what you know right now, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're also being selfish to the people who need you to execute at a high level to unlock them. You with me?
Yeah.
Like some people need you to be the best version of yourself to give them permission to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And we don't look at it like that sometimes. We look at it in a very selfish way sometimes. Like, well, I had a bad day. Well, your bad day just cost them another day. Your bad day just caused those kids to not get the message that you had stored inside of you. Your bad day didn't allow, you know, that young person that you inspire every day when you put a message out on social media or on a platform, it didn't allow them to see that message and hear that message. And maybe now they want to give up. So sometimes we're a little selfish in our level of execution and who it could be impacting.
You better speak today. Look, you better speak. You talk about somebody took somebody to church today. You're taking me to church because I missed my sermon. Thank you.
I got you.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
There are times I feel like I execute on a 10, maybe like 89 out of 90 days, right? I feel like, but then there are days when I'm just like, you know, that next day I feel like, okay, well, I'm typically on 10. Give yourself a break, and I just try to keep being my motivational speaker in my head until I get back to it. But that one day, that 89, that 90th day where I slack, that's the reason I said 90, because it kind of affects the next 10. Because I'm like, I'm working to get back to that 10, and I'm like, the next 10 are somewhere between. But you're right, that slight that slight down day is affecting someone who's actually looking at me. And I think that's what even allows me to not like tap all the way into like all of the things that it makes to be who I am, because I slack off in my 10 and I'm like, oh, it's okay for you to slack off because I slack off too.
Yeah. I think one thing in relation to that, when you know you're going hard, you know you're giving it your all, you do have to think of self-care. Like, I don't want people to neglect like that. You still have to take care of yourself, right? And you have to give yourself, and if it has to be baked into your schedule, however you arrange it, right? So if you got a significant other, don't go so hard that you forget date nights. If you got kids, don't go hard that you forget about time with your kids, right? That's going hard too. Like, that's like, I heard this and this was so, I'm so glad this just came to me. This was so powerful. I heard a gentleman say, I can't remember his name, I would love to reference him, but I heard a gentleman say one time, he said, you know, God has worked miracles, right? And he created so many things. And it's so important that we execute at a high level, because God put 6 days of like hard work into creating what we see, right? Yeah. But he said, you know what's equal to that hard work is the 7th day of rest. He said he gave that 7th day just as much value as he did the days of creation. And I was like, that was it. That was it. Because sometimes we try to go so hard that we forget rest. Yeah. We forget that we need to be rejuvenated. We forget that taking a break is part of the process, right? So you have to give yourself permission to say, okay, I need a day to recover so I can still deliver at a high level. Yeah. But if you don't bake it in, you'll try to look past it, and then when you just kind of fall, then you don't even you don't get back upright. Exactly. So you need to plan that day. Plan that day like, this is my day to rest and recover, y'all. I'm laying back, I'm getting the spa treatment, I'm turning the phone on, do not disturb. Whatever you need to do to unplug and rejuvenate, do that so you can still deliver at a high level. Yeah. That's important. It's just as important. Yeah. I don't want anybody to overlook that. It's just as important. God ranked rest at the same level as execution, right? So just remember that when you're moving and going and getting it and you taking action and getting results, rest is ranked just as high as execution. Plan it, take advantage of it. It's there for a reason. Yeah. Right? So
that's strong. You speaking straight to me. I mean, I don't know if you guys got anything out of that one. But I definitely did, because like what I would do is go 6.5 days, and then just because like my energy is like low, I kind of I do a half potato rest day when I should have like literally committed.
Take the whole day.
Like God did.
Give yourself permission for that. And then if you have a day where your body just shuts down on you, you know, because it happens. Like, we go so hard. I would not forget, like, it was a moment where I was waking up at like 4:30, 4:45, and I would go until like 11:30 and do it the next day and do it the next day. And I never forget this one day, like, I felt like I couldn't function. Like, my brain wasn't working. Like, my body was shutting down. I laid down and I slept. Like midday, like I never sleep midday. Like, I just laid down and slept. And it was kind of weird because I did feel like I was lacking, right? But my body was just like, bro, you need to slow down. Yeah. Right? And I did that, and I woke up feeling guilty. And then a word came to me. It was like, have some grace. My mentor kept telling me this. He said, you gotta learn how to have some grace with yourself. Yeah. Right? So when you're in an entrepreneur space and you're going hard and you know you got purpose and you're purpose driven and you're just giving it your all, you still have to remember to have grace. And I'll even add another word with that. And one of my mentors, now mentor, I would say, Dwayne, he told me, he says it's a tag team. It's a twin of words that I want you to always remember. He said grace and mercy. Right? You'd have grace and mercy, right? Because forgiveness is a form of mercy, right? So have some grace with yourself as you're moving and operating at a high level. You got to be a little graceful too. Yeah. You know, we move with grace, but give yourself some grace. Yeah. You deserve it. When you're impacting lives and really changing people, that's a heavy work. You got to have some grace with yourself.
That's real. You preaching. You definitely preaching. I don't know if you knew that's what you were going to do today, but hey, this is happening. Yeah. So it's easy. You know, I should say it's easy for me because it's just me, right? I'm not a mom, I'm a sister, but those don't carry the same responsibilities as husband and father, right? And even son to a degree, because you kind of are a leader in your family. Absolutely. Even though you're not the oldest. So like, how do you balance, like self-care and entrepreneurship with a family?
I would say for a lot of individuals, and I'm being honest with myself right now as well, it's a learning process. I think when you're really diving into entrepreneurship, unless you've been in it for years and you've really gotten on a good frequency with your family or with your relationships, that you keep trying to learn and reinvent. I'll be honest with you, and hopefully my wife is open to this transparency, but she's not used to me or the space of like big events and like that level of like rah excitement. I'm an extrovert. She's more introvert, right? So having her in that environment is a little overwhelming, and I didn't know how to like be understanding of like how she was feeling in that type of space. But she connected with somebody who was like, yeah, maybe you just need to like maybe take a day out of that space. And when she told me about that, I was like, yeah, maybe she right. Like I didn't know how to say that to you, but maybe she right. So me being who I am, being a very, I can go all day. Like I'm a speaker. It's a natural gift for me. So I can go all day interacting, speaking all the time, and being that high energy. I'm a high energy guy. So it's like, that's very natural for me. But for my wife, I have to learn to be understanding that that's not natural for her. She comes far out of her element to be present and supportive when I'm in my element and she's beside me. So I'm learning, and I'm talking about right now, I'm learning how to be more understanding of, okay, as I'm growing in this entrepreneurship space, right? How can I still be mindful of the space she needs while she's supporting me? Yeah. Right? How can we still be mindful of the interactions that we need to have with our kids? Like, I want to be at all my son's boxing classes. Right. He's 6 and he's starting to get, he's starting to do his thing. And I want to be there for all of those. So I don't want to sacrifice those moments for entrepreneurship or business. That's the purpose why I got into it. Yeah. To gain more control over my time, not to just, now don't get me wrong, it's an investment. Like entrepreneurship is a time and commitment, it's an investment. But you also have to have a certain level of balance and high expectation of how you're going to commit to your family, because I heard Jeremy Anderson reference Inky Johnson and say, don't be a public success and a private failure. Yeah. I don't want to be that private failure where I'm failing at home, I'm failing with my commitment to my family, I'm failing with my commitment to my kids or expectation with my kids, but I look like I'm succeeding out here in the public world speaking. Like, I don't want that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's real. That's real. I think we talk about it, even like some of the folks that in the morning meetup who talk about like entrepreneurship, we're so like gung-ho into it, but a lot of us are single, and some of us who do have spouses, that's a whole other like energy source that can make or break the entrepreneurship journey, and then make or break the family unit. So it's important as a leader, kind of going back to leadership, that you be in tune with that energy shift, with that vibration shift, and be able to be self-aware enough to check yourself in situations that you're going to continue to elevate. Because not that I'm saying you don't look good, but you're going to have your cock diesel arms like you envision. You're going to be at that higher vibration, and it's only going to take more and more and more commitment. So having that conversation and being real with yourself, I think that is commendable and it's respectable for sure. As a husband who's out here doing it, and then trying to stay committed to the family growth as well. Yeah. So I'm curious, when it comes to the whole work and play dynamic. For me, I can make it look like whatever I want, and I don't necessarily have to consider anyone else's ideal of it just yet. Yeah. So when you think about the ideal situation, is it what does that look like for you? And does that is it heavily influenced by the fact that you have these other roles? I've gotten so many questions about this brand, and I'm super excited to share that this episode is sponsored by Black is Wealth Clothing. Now, Black is Wealth was created to inspire and empower our culture to tap into our wealth. Now, when we talk about wealth, we're not just talking about financial wealth. We're talking about the strength, resilience, and brilliance that lives inside of all of us. Now, by tapping into our wealth, we can create any form of wealth that we desire. So, if you like this shirt or any other shirt that you've seen me sport on my Instagram or any other platform, then go check them out at blackiswealth.com. I love this one, and y'all are gonna love it too. Now let's get back to the episode.
When you said the ideal type of,
Now I don't want to say balance, because I believe that they're like interwoven. As an entrepreneur, we live, breathe, and eat what we do, especially since like your skill sets, you're a speaker.
Yeah.
You speak all the time. We all speak, but you really are a speaker. You get paid for it. So, you know, like, what is the ideal balance of like getting paid for what you do and then kind of just not?
You know what? I think I spent so many years doing what I do for free. You know, and that's how I really knew it was a passion and just like it was a gift. You know, like I would still do it for free. I get paid for it now. So, you know, as you get better and better in your craft and you start to get more and more exposure, of course, there's going to be a certain level of like, hey, you know, if you're bringing me on board, you would pay somebody else to do the same thing I'm doing. So, you know, treat me the same way.
Right.
But ideally, I guess, a few things. Like, for example, we was out, me and my wife and my family, my kids were out bowling a few weeks back. And for me, what I do in my craft, like you said, it's my life, right? It's not just like when I hit the stage or I'm in the school, like I turn on, like I'm always on. And it can be frustrating sometimes, but I'm always on. Yeah. And there was a young man who looked like he was there with his mom. And she was trying to show him how to bowl a little bit. And I looked at him, I could bowl pretty decent, right? So I looked at him bowl, and he had a pretty decent bowl, but he was kind of a little unorganized, right? So he was right next to us. I went over there and I said, hey man, like when you swing your arm and you kind of sway your leg to the side, I said, don't stumble, like keep your posture and your balance straight. And I said, keep it solid. And I told him the line to roll his bowl down, or his ball down. And he hit some pins and his form got better. And when I say his face lit up, and even my wife she would attest to it. She was watching, like he would watch every bowl I did from that point. And he would bowl and look back at me. Yeah. Did you see it? Like, and I just met this kid. And she almost got teary-eyed because she was like, babe, this is a real gift of yours. Like, you just stepped in, and he was so excited just to see you and be seen by you. It did something to that young man. And it just happened, like, it was just so natural for me. I'm like, hey man, come here for a second. It wasn't scripted. It was just a natural flow for me. Yeah. And I like to empower young people to just, whatever it is you're doing, if I can help you a little bit, if I give you a little bit of direction and it helps you be better in that area, that's what I'm here for. And I'm not gonna ever ask for no money for that. You know, I didn't look at his mom and say, look, you know, no, this is just what I do. Yeah. You know, so I think part of it is just life. And then a part of it is very business professional. And, you know, you need to put, you know, a financial contribution attached to your service, right? But if I was doing something else and I was getting paid good money, I would still speak just for the love of speaking. I love it. And the impact.
I love it. I love it. Now, I definitely am going to close out. I'm going to let you close out. But I'm just curious, what happened to the truck?
So November of 2019. Okay. So my truck was literally on the road from August to November. And by November, I had spent almost about $20,000 in repairs.
Whew, they say fail fast.
Yeah, and the last repair, I was tapped out at this point. You know, all my little savings and money I had put, I thought I needed about 15 to 20 to just as backup money to keep me afloat. And that money started going so quick between gas, insurance, paying my driver. You know, I was paying I had a lease agreement, not lease agreement. I was paying on the truck because the bank financed it. So I was paying them back on the truck. So all these expenses on top of the breakdowns. Yeah. So that money went super fast. So last breakdown in November, I just could not afford about 10 grand. That was needed to get it back up and running, and I couldn't afford it. So I let them repossess the truck. So it set me back. It really set me back. And it was such a great learning experience. Like, and some people have a hard time saying that through the pain. It was such a great learning experience.
Yeah.
It was painful, but it was such a great learning experience. I learned so much from that. I could teach somebody how to start a truck, and like I could teach like what I did, beginning to end, how I booked, like everything. And it's probably a course in me somewhere on that, you know what I'm saying? But it's not my lane. But I learned so much from that pain and that experience, and it also helped push me towards where I was supposed to be. You know, for so many years, I knew that speaking was my gift, but for some reason I didn't think that it was the gift that would pay me enough or get me in a position where I could take care of my family from that gift.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, I gotta work a job, I gotta have this other business, you know, I'm a licensed life insurance broker right now as well. I do some real estate as well. And like, I'm thinking all these things are gonna be the things that make sure I'm taken care of. And truth be told, your gift can be that thing that keeps your family taken care of. Your gift can pay all your bills and put you in a great financial position.
Yeah.
And I'm just now really taking that and owning it. You know, like my gift is going to be the platform that gets me to where I want to be in life. So it might take some years. It's going to take some beat up. It's going to take some pressure. But as you navigate through life, whatever that thing is that's in you that just keeps saying like, let me out. Like I'm what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like not all these other distractions of this can make you a lot of money and this can make, because there's a lot of stuff that can make you a lot of money right now.
Absolutely.
You know, whatever that thing is that's stirring inside that keeps calling your name and saying, let me out. You got to get to a point where you listen and allow that thing to really carve the way, pave the way, and doors will open from that. I think people are fearful of saying, well, if I just speak, no, speaking will lead to a book. You know, speaking will lead to a course. Speaking might lead to what I experienced today. You know, a whole academy, a conference for speakers.
Yeah.
You know, so it can open so many doors if you just focus on the lane and become a master at your craft. Everybody wants to be a handyman. Learn to be a master at something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the secret.
I hear you 100%. I almost lost my thought how good that was. I mean, it's crazy, but no, that makes sense. For the record, where do you want to go? So that way, when you put that out into the Ethernet, the ether, let's say, or the universe, so God can hear you. What is it that you really are working towards? For the record. Yeah.
So I want to be, I'll say the next, because right now one of my coaches and mentors is the current, but I want to be the next #1 youth motivational speaker in the world, hands down. And my goal at this point is to do everything necessary to get to that. You know, everything necessary within, you know, my core values and the right means, and making sure my family is still at the top of my priority list. But I'm gonna do everything I have to be the #1 youth motivational speaker. I don't care to be the best motivational speaker in the world. It's not really my goal, but in the youth space, that's the level of impact that I'm going to make.
Yeah.
Yes, it's already done. And I would tell for anybody before we finish, whatever you want to do, whatever your aspirations is, goal is, you got to get so in tune with that thing. Like, you need to have it written down on gold cards. You need to have the pictures around you. You need to create an environment of excitement and belief and imagination and dreams. Like, you need to see that thing every day, because something I teach is that wherever you're facing, wherever your eyes is looking, you're typically going that direction, right? So there's power in putting things before your eyes. If you can see those things every single day, those words, those images, that's why environments are so impactful. When you get in certain environments, it changes your entire energy, right? So imagine if you can start creating some of those environments from the current space that you're in every single day, your home. Like, one of my goals is to retire my mom by March of next year, right? That's a major goal of mine. And I know exactly how much it's gonna cost to get her off her job, and I'll pay her that salary every single year, right? But in order for that goal to truly manifest in my life, I had to start creating an atmosphere that was conducive to that vision. So when I wake up, I got a goal written on the side of my bed this way, a goal written on the side of my bed this way. When I sit up, I got a goal written on my wall. I got a picture of my mom with all these goals and writings around it. And it's her holding me, blowing out a candle when I was a baby.
Wow.
And on there, I wrote down, you've had my back all my life. It's time for me to have yours, right? So little things like that get you so in tune with the vision, and it really stirs something inside of you, because we all have a why, but does it stir you?
Yeah.
Have you gotten in tune with it enough that it really gets you going in the moments where you don't feel like doing it? Because you're going to have to do some things you don't feel like doing. But if you get in tune with your vision and your goal and your why so deeply that it stirs something in you, now the vibration, now the law of attraction, now the frequency is starting to be on the right level to match whatever that frequency is in the universe connected to the goal. A lot of people are missing that. They don't understand that if your frequency isn't matching the frequency of the universe attached to the goal, you won't reach it.
Right.
You got to get your frequency there. And then it locks. It locks with the universe's frequency.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I still don't know how I'm gonna get there. Then somebody comes into the picture. And you're like, where did they come from? The universe made that part happen.
Yeah.
Oh, where did somebody called me and was like, hey man, I got a house I want to sell. I heard you did some real estate. Oh, cool. I wasn't even trying to do it, but it happened, right? The universe was in tune because I was in tune. So people got to work on their frequency and get it up to the right vibration in order to connect with the frequency connected to the goal.
Absolutely, 100%. Man, this is a personal episode for me, man.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, I'm serious. Like my coach would definitely, I'm gonna have to talk to her about this.
Yeah.
So, I typically ask this question in the spirit of Sankofa as we reach back. But you do a really good job of speaking to really everybody, and I think anybody could resonate with what you said.
Thank you.
Like your entire experience. But I think what I would love for you to do is like tap into that corporate soul, because I think you had really good success early on at Target, which might not seem corporate from the ground up, but it really is.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't see what it looks like on the other side of that experience. And then you went on to have another 9-to-5. You even went into the MLM space, so you got to see a little bit of what your own skills could accomplish, sales, all of that. But one thing that resonates, it's kind of like, I want to say you've just never, at least you don't speak too much of like fear, right? And it's not to say it wasn't ever there. So I know it's in there, but if you could reach back to that person who's in corporate and they don't necessarily understand how they can make certain shifts, right? What would you say to that person so that you can help them unlock what's inside of them so that they can be their best self?
If they're in corporate, the first thing I would say to somebody in corporate, because I've actually spoken to, young business professionals. And for the corporate space, I always tell everybody, number one, learn to be your own authentic, be your authentic self. Like, people are afraid to be authentic and transparent in the corporate space. But that's what, if you pay attention to the corporate space now, it's starting to gravitate more and more towards that, right? Allowing people to have their own identities, allowing people to be more inclusive in the decision making of corporate initiatives. And I would tell, number one, try as hard as you can to really be your authentic self, right? If you're in a corporate space and you know that that's the space you're in, and maybe you just got to be there right now, right? Be your authentic self. And really understand and value people, right? Because in the it's really any arena, but when you're in the corporate space or I was in the retail space, one thing that I was known for is my level of customer service. I engage people very authentically. When you had an interaction with me, it was one of those interactions that you was like, I'm gonna remember this guy, because I just brought that level of intention to wanting to know who you are and treat you with the best service possible. And I think for a lot of people, and that's not just to the customers, that was to my team. They're your first customer. So if you're in the corporate or retail space, your first customer is your team. Right? So if you're in a leadership role, you have to learn how to treat your team with a high level of value. They make your business great. They are the reason you are where you are. Right? So for me, I treated my team that way. I treated my customers that way. And I really started developing an understanding and a higher level understanding for people. right? So if you study people, you study characteristics of people, you study different demographics, and I worked in different demographics, so I learn about like what this type of people were like, and I'll never forget working in a predominantly Hispanic community, and it was like, they look at me and they're like, you can speak Spanish, right? Like, nah, I can't, man. I know I look like it. I can, hola, poquito, like I can't get much out there. But like just the interaction with them was so awesome because like they wanted me to know more and I wanted to know more, and we would just be authentically engaged with each other. So whatever the scenario is, corporate space, retail space, business space, you gotta understand people.
Yeah.
You gotta value people. You gotta value interaction and time with people. Because guess what? When people are working, especially if they're working for you in your space, they're also sacrificing time with someone else that they could be with. Absolutely. A lot of people are sacrificing their time with their kids and their loved ones to be in that space to provide. And you have to value that. Yeah. So that's what I would say. That'll be my message in the corporate arena.
That's dope. And as I ask you these questions, I realize you're very aware of like connecting with the audience, which is a whole nother like podcast about just speaking. But you do a really good job. Like I bet, because I was a Toastmaster. Hey guys, it's Ariel from the Work and Play podcast. If you're getting any value from this channel, and I mean anything from the tutorials to the podcast to the random videos that you see on this channel, then I just ask that you do one thing. Please subscribe and share this to anyone that you think this resonates with, and drop a comment below so I know what other things that you want to see next. Now let's get back to the episode. I bet if I threw a couple of topics
I picked them out the hat. I used to pick them out the hat. And I don't care what the topic was. I went up there. I did some Toastmasters.
I could tell. I could throw you an alley-oop or two, and then you'll kill it. I think that'll be dope. But thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. You have been a really cool guest to have because you're on your path. Your energy is a little different because you're in that motivational speaker space, and it really is a different vibration. It is because you are who you are. You might not feel your vibration all the time, but I'm telling you, from my perspective, I feel it. Thank you. So whatever you feel when you're talking to the Jeremy Andersons of the world and the ETs and whatever, that's what I'm feeling from you right now.
Thank you. Yeah, for anybody who's watching, if you guys are looking to find me, you can catch me on Instagram. It's my first and last name, Dawud, Dawud, and my last name, Hamzah, Hamzah. It's the same thing on Facebook. And I just getting my website started, but maybe by the time you guys see this, it'll be all the way tied in together. But it's hypeworldwide.org. Hype, HYPE, worldwide.org. And I didn't really get a chance to talk about Hype too much, but that is my platform for speaking. And Hype just means helping you produce excellence. So I started that a few years ago, and all of my businesses, when I started my trucking, it was Hype Trucking. When I got into real estate, it was Hype Investing. And now I have Hype just in general, but I'm branding it as Hype Worldwide now. So yeah, it's go time.
It is go time. Yeah. That's really awesome. So everything will be in the description. He kind of took it. I didn't even have to throw him that one because I typically will be like, how can they connect with you? But kind of took it from me. But it's good. You really are on a roll. So if you guys resonated with the story today, then I think you guys know what to do. We got lots of steps, so if you didn't take notes, I need you to replay this episode for the views and for the story, for the lesson, and go ahead and do what you know you got to do to be your best self. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining me. Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for watching. Peace out.